Welcome everybody to Papa Spice's Hot Takes with Hans and Harry. How are you guys all doing out there? We hope you're doing good. Hans, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good. Now I'm all set up. Had some computer issues beforehand, but I can hear and see you guys. It's all it's important.
A little peek behind the
I was,
curtain there.
I was
Very
getting a
good.
little fast and furious.
Harry, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. We'll be dropping this after I'm married. So a little peek into the world of that. We're recording this actually early because I'll be away in Antigua. So enjoy this pod. I'll be on a beach, sipping some drinks and having some tasty treats.
Oh, you lucky man. Have a Miami Vice for me, my friend.
Will do.
All right. So, yeah, as Harry mentioned, we're recording this a little early, but this will be dropping in time before F9. So this way, if you're new to the franchise or you just want to revisit it, we're here to give you kind of a primer on the Fast and the Furious. Basically, what we're doing here is we took all of the movies, including Hobbs and Shaw, so the Fast and Furious franchise, and we each ranked them individually, and then we got an average of all of the movies and kind of an overall ranking. So we're going to go through that overall ranking. There's going to be spoilers, so if you haven't seen them and you want to, go check them out, come back, give us a listen. If you just want to jump in with maybe F9 or whatever, we're here to help you with that. We can get you ready, but we're going to go over all of the movies here. So with that said, let's start with the best of the worst, the very bottom. Hare, what did we have?
So I think when you're talking about the Fast and Furious franchise, there's two movies that come to mind that are pretty much consensus bottom two. And this is the one that I would say is consensus mostly people's bottom movie. And that's the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, released in 2006. Tried to find some details on the budget for that film. Didn't really look too hard, but couldn't find any, which is probably because it was such a bust. It made $158 million worldwide, which isn't much a success. It doesn't have the lowest Rotten Tomato critic score, but its Rotten Tomatoes critic score is 37%. Now I'll talk a little bit about this movie. For me, I don't think this is the worst one. I think, the next one coming up on the list is the worst one. I think that's also because this movie came out when I was 18, maybe 17, 18. So this was like primary, like the kid like isn't working out of high school and he's going overseas and he's learning how to drift. And while I have no interest in cars, I know nothing about cars. Love the Fast and Furious franchise. So that was enough for me to be like, let's jump back in. And this is, going back to 2006, this was also kind of pre-internet, as far as the hype machine and, Twitter machine and all that stuff. So, there was obviously the big reveal at the end, spoiler alert, Dominic Toretto is back, and showing Vin Diesel at the final scene there. And I believe I did see this movie with you, Hans. Am I correct on that?
Possibly. When did this come out? It was 2006. So
Yeah.
it's very possible we did. I know this was the first one I saw in theaters, so I didn't see one.
Interesting.
I kind of jumped into the Fast and Furious train late. But yeah, this is the first one I actually kind of I don't know why it was the first one. I have no idea. It's definitely it belongs in the top bottom too. This was one of the first movies I saw with like that stinger at the end where it wasn't necessarily post credits, but you have the hero, basically the hero from the first one come back, which nowadays I feel like every movie has some kind of post credit scene, so it's not that wouldn't be that surprising in today's day and age. But I think back then, like you had said before the internet kind of took over with spoilers and everything, that like blew everyone's minds. Like if you didn't see it opening weekend, then most likely you were getting spoiled by someone who saw it. Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, I just remember the news trickling out like, hey, you got to stay for the credits. Like there's a nice, kind of surprise. And it was nice to see, Dom pulling up and being like, what's up? It's me. Let's go. And you're like, yes, they're going for it. He's back. Because, obviously for me, Too Fast and Too Furious, the second movie in the franchise was solid, but I think it was missing that Dom element and family. So, I know we haven't really talked about the movie, but Greg, I'll toss it over to you about, maybe touching base on that a little bit.
Yeah, the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift is by far the worst movie in the franchise for me. And just, as a way to kind of reinvigorate my memory and prep for the new movie coming out, I rewatched all of them in the franchise. And this one just could not keep my attention. I don't know what it was.
Same.
I find the cast, I think, was lacking. Lucas Black, the 25-year-old, playing like a 17-year-old, and he's got this cornpone Southern accent, and it's like, it's nauseating. The soundtrack, I think, did not work either. There's some goofy, "Don't you see how we do in Tokyo?" Or like, it was something corny
That song
like that.
slaps, man. I don't know what's wrong with you.
It doesn't. And you know what? Like, even who was his friend? Was that Bow Wow?
Yeah,
Yes,
little
Bow
Bow
Wow
Wow.
was in this one. Yeah.
So Bow Wow has a
Yeah.
car that's like tricked out to look like the Hulk. I'm the hugest
Yep.
comic fan, and even that made me roll my eyes. It's like, dude, that car looks like a piece of crap. I was not into it. Sonny Chiba was in it, so that's like the one plus. And
Yeah.
and the kid from Home Improvement. Although that was pretty
In the first
horrifying to
scene.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
The older
race.
brother, right? The oldest brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they get in like a
bully.
serious wreck. I thought they were gonna die, and then it turns out no, everybody's fine, and Daddy bails them out and stuff. So I don't know. This movie, not for me. I don't like it.
I think what this is like kind of, I think one of the first kind of like instances where you start seeing like movies having shared universes in terms of like this couldn't, you could take away the Fast and Furious name from this and it would just be another movie. Like it would just be just another race car movie. But I think that now that they kind of, I guess, I don't know how far they thought about it in 2006 because Tokyo Drift kind of plays a a pretty important part in a few of the later movies, but I don't know whether or not if some of this stuff was planned or not. I don't know. But I think that was the first time where it was kind of like, all right, well, it's not necessarily like it's not going to follow the first two movies. Now it's like a much bigger world. So yeah.
I will note also that this and Fast and Furious were the only two that I haven't seen in theaters. So yeah, this one, it just, as much as I love the second one, I had no interest in seeing this. And I was proven right when I finally got around to watching it at home.
Yeah. I think for me, Tokyo Drift, like I said, I think Fast and Furious is a little worse. But for me, it's just, I don't know. I think it has some fun elements, and I think this really launched the next part for the series where they, I don't know when they filmed the movie and then decided to put in that teaser, at the end with Dom coming back, whether it was like, hey, we need to, show people we're going to reboot the series, because I know it's a couple years. It's about 3 years after this when the next one comes out, Fast and Furious, in 2009. But yeah, I think this was kind of like the launching pad to be like, we're not doing this right. Let's try to get, the guys back together and the band back together to go for it. So Chris, what's number 8 on our list?
So number 8, I brought it up a couple times, Fast and Furious, not the Fast and the Furious. They just dropped the thes and called it Fast and Furious, which led to so much confusion when that came out. I'll admit, I actually recently, this is probably the most recent one I watched within the past couple of weeks. I had it on kind of as background noise. I feel like a lot of these movies can be background noise with just having them on. They're not, at this point, this wasn't really like a plot driven series, I guess you could say, for the most part. I think 4 was more of a soft reboot to bring Dom and Paul Walker back together. And then I know we mentioned before, like it introduced like Gal Gadot, some of the kind of the heavy hitters that are going to go into the series, like in the next few movies. Letty's killed off in like pretty much the first 5-10 minutes. And, I that kind of like ruined it for me, because I'm a huge Michelle Rodriguez fan. I was kind of disappointing to see that in the first like 10 minutes, but other than that,
Absolutely.
I'm glad they brought her back. I like how they brought her back, but at the same time, this is very like I don't really, even though this was the most recent one I watched, I don't really remember too much with it, because I feel like it was just maybe at this point a soft reboot. Like I feel like they just wanted to at least put a filler in between like what they wanted to do between 3 and 5. So they're like, all right, well, let's just toss like just basically a standalone movie for Brian and Dom. But as you can see in 5, like after 5, the thing just goes in a whole different direction, like more plot driven. But I mean, the action was good. It was cool to see Brian and Dom together again. I mean, they are basically the two most known characters in the series. So
Yeah.
I think it was a good idea to bring them back. But you know, it wasn't a bad movie, but compared to the ones that we're going to talk about in the list a little bit, it's definitely probably the weakest of the bunch of the ones after Tokyo Drift.
Mhm.
So, Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, so this one is ranked right where I had it on my list at number 8. This, like I mentioned, was the other one I didn't see in theaters, so I kind of saw this one retroactively right before 5 came out. But I mean, it's for me, it's watchable. It's not terrible like Tokyo Drift, but definitely not my favorite. This is the lowest rated for Rotten Tomatoes with a
Yeah,
28%.
critically.
And
Yeah.
I don't really get that, but I don't know. I mean, plot wise, this was the first time. So in the first one, Brian is undercover trying to infiltrate Dom's gang, and then the next time we see Dom and Brian together in a movie, it's this one, and they're kind of like frenemies. They're
Yeah.
both working to try and get the same drug lord, and so they're both going undercover, and they're kind of playing off each other and stuff. I thought it was cool that this movie had stakes with Letty dying. As much as I like Michelle Rodriguez,
Yeah.
it's nice that they were willing to play with, hey, we can off somebody to show that this is serious business. As Hans mentioned, Gal Gadot coming in, thought she was a great addition. Was this the one also that introduced I forget the dude's names, the two Latino guys, Don Omar and I want to say the other guy's name is Tigo or something.
I think you might be right on that, but it might also be. I don't remember if their movie was Fast Five because that's the first time I remember seeing them because I think I, only saw this one once and then it was
Mhm.
like I'm out on it because I think this one was ranked number 9 on my list because I don't love it to be
Okay.
honest with you
Well,
for
if,
it,
if
but
if this was the first appearance, which I think it was, I
mhm.
like them, so it was cool having
Yeah,
them in the movie.
yeah, nice little
Um,
comedic humor there.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, just it's this one's take it or leave it to me. How
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I said, I think this is the worst one. I didn't really get the whole, let's bring the band back together and then let's just, off one of them, pretty much, very early on in the movie, especially somebody like Michelle Rodriguez, who I think is definitely a solid actress and a great even action actress, even more. This movie did cost $85 million to make, and it made 360 million worldwide. So, when we talk about, some of the budgets and what the movie's made, you'll kind of see that this is kind of the turning point, that I was kind of referencing with the last one, where this is where the page turns and they realize, hey, like we might have something here to kind of build off of. They got the band back together, they introduced some new characters, and then that leads to the whole world building with Fast Five for it. But yeah, I mean, I know there's like an underground, like they got to get over like the border, right, kind of CGI mess to me action scene where they're like driving in tunnels. That doesn't quite work for me for it. So yeah, I think this one should be just below Tokyo Drift, but again, I think this is usually the consensus 8, 9. With these two for it.
Okay. So next up, ranked number 7 in our list, but actually number 8 in the main series of installments is The Fate of the Furious. That was released in 2017. Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 67%, so pretty high there. Budget of 250 million and made 1.2 billion with a B
B.
worldwide. Yeah, so this was the first installment without Paul Walker at all. And so I think that probably lent to some people going and buying tickets to see what were they going to do and how is
Yeah.
this going to play out. I was kind of talking to Harry before the show and saying, this was the most recent one I rewatched, and I don't. It wasn't as bad as I remember it. It has some over the top stuff for sure.
Yeah.
There's a whole submarine going through the ice, and it's just kind of wacky. And I think The Rock redirected a torpedo with his bare hands. so that was a little nuts, but there were some elements that they added, like Dom's son. That was really cool. Seeing Owen and Luke or Shaw. Are those the two names?
Yeah,
Deckard?
Or Deckard?
yeah.
Owen and Deckard.
No,
right?
Deckard Shaw is from Blade Runner, isn't it?
No,
No.
it's Deckard.
Okay.
Deckard
Deckard's
is-
Jason Statham, right?
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
Deckard. But Deckard is the name of the character from from Blade Runner also.
That's what I thought. I was like, hold on a second. Maybe an homage
so-
there.
We have the two Shaw brothers coming in. This is the first time we see Helen Mirren also as their mom.
Yep.
Charlize Theron was great as a villain. She was very
Yeah.
cold and calculating.
I did
Um,
enjoy her.
And they left her alive for the next one. So yeah, I mean, I think this is appropriately ranked. And again, not as bad as I initially thought. Over the top, but fun. Hans, what did you think about Fate of the Furious?
So I haven't seen all of it. I saw the majority of it. In terms of, I did one of those YouTube videos to see like the best parts of it because I really do have every intention to see 8 before 9 comes out. Like I know Harry's talked about lending me his Blu-ray for it because I don't own it and it's
I'll
not
bring
on
it over,
streaming
man.
anywhere. So I will revisit it, but I've seen a lot of goofy parts in that movie, and I think 7, and when we get to 7, we'll talk about that. Is where I think this one's more along the lines of where like this team isn't like necessarily like just like regular team, like they're basically superhumans. It's X-Men and somehow like superhuman beings in doing these goofy missions where the Rock's, like you said, redirecting a torpedo. I saw
Love
that
it.
in the trailer, and I think my first reaction was like, I think I put my head down and was like, "You kidding me? Like this is so bizarre." And it's one of those
It's a little
movies where-
silly.
yeah, and it's one of the movies where in the sequels, the villain from the previous one of the villains from the previous one becomes a good guy, and then from this we get Hobbs and Shaw and all like, and I'm a huge Jason Statham fan, so I'm glad that they didn't well, once we get into 7, we'll talk about that. But it was cool to see Owen back. It was cool to see like Helen Mirren. I love Charlize Theron. I think she's great. It's good to see her in a villain role, which I don't think I've ever really seen her other than Monster. I don't even think I guess she was a villain in that. But other than that, I don't really. She's always like basically the hero in these action movies, so it was cool to kind of see her take a little bit of a different role. Dom's a bad guy through I think most of the movie as I was catching on. But other than that, one of the reasons it probably made a lot of money was, like you said, because Brian wasn't back, and they want. I think a lot of people were curious to see the direction it was going to take. It went in a very different direction, I think, than a lot of people thought, in terms of amping up the action. But we've mentioned it before, where I think after 5, these movies start taking like kind of a linear story, which is good. And this kind of like mixes in a lot of the past characters with Owen, Deckard, and they're going to need a lot to make up for Brian being gone. And I think they did, from what I was able to tell, they did a pretty solid job with bringing in some big names with it.
Mm-hmm. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is right where I had this one ranked, and I think with 7, if you're talking about your rankings, your own personal rankings, I think this one through number 4, because I think there's a definitive top 3 in my opinion, but I think 4 through 7 you can kind of mix and match, and I think the Fate and the Furious like is just kind of the quintessential like what you're looking for from a Fast and the Furious movie. You're looking for some crazy action scenes where somebody's driving and guiding a torpedo. You're looking for cool villains. You're looking for one of the previous villains to kind of, realize like, hey, there's a bigger villain that we have to try and take out. And I think this one, there's only 10 movies on this list. Somebody's got to be at the bottom, and it's the middle tier is kind of where I think you can play around a little bit more. But this one by no means is a bad one. I think it's definitely highly enjoyable. And, would highly recommend it. If you haven't seen 9, this is the one to definitely see beforehand. There might be some parts that are confusing, but, at least the villain, is carrying over. And I'll be interested to see what they do, going forward with their last, 2 movies it is? Because I think they're doing 10 and then 11, and then that is apparently it. But I'll be interested to see if, Charlize is, the villain, by the end of this movie still as well, or if they bring her into the fold and, bring in another big bad.
Yeah, it's interesting for 9 because I was checking the casting and they've announced Helen Mirren, but they haven't announced Jason Statham or oh God, who plays Owen?
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans.
Yeah.
They haven't announced either of those guys yet, so I don't know if they're going to be returning. Although I imagine that they would if Helen Mirren's going to be in it. But Charlize, it seems like she's going to be, one of the main bads, I guess.
They're running into the Avengers problem. It's like where are the Shaw brothers? Like, what were they doing while Cypher was trying to take over the world?
They're probably doing stuff on the moon or something. That's why they launch cars in the space to see them.
Yeah, totally excited.
All right, well, yeah, that was Fate of the Furious. So what do we got next
on our list? Yeah, number 6 on our list is the only, I guess, Tokyo Drift is like kind of a subcategory entry, but another subcategory entry, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, released in 2019. Budget was about 200 million and it made 759 million worldwide. So this is the most recent, I guess, Fast and Furious adaptation that we have, even though Fate of the Furious was the last movie of the kind of series. And I think for this one, it just kind of shows that like this movie can, this franchise can be successful with the name possibly alone. It was a Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 67%, same as Fate of the Furious. So, it is a fresh movie. But I felt like the dynamic with this one with, Jason Statham and The Rock really worked. Adding Vanessa Kirby, I think is, the sister was a brilliant addition there for it. And this one, like I said with the last one, the Fate of the Furious, I think it's just a solid, this is what you want. You want people getting into, you want the comedy, of The Rock and Jason Statham, you want some stakes, with it. And, obviously my man is in it, Idris Elba. Give me more Idris Elba. I wish, I don't know. I don't know if we officially saw him die at the end of this movie. Spoiler alert, in case you haven't seen it. Like to try and do that before, but I would love to see him just in the franchise as a permanent figure. Love to see him in 9. I hope he's in 9 as some surprise, or maybe he teams up with Cypher at the end. That would be incredible. So, Hans, what are your thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw, Hans?
This was one I absolutely put on in the background because I wanted to at least, because I didn't fully see Fate, and I didn't see Hobbs and Shaw as of last week, so I wanted to at least catch up and see one of them.
Bang him out, baby. Bang him out.
I, as much as I've recently saw this movie, I feel like a lot of it didn't, like, I didn't retain a lot of it because there was a lot going on, and like it had me entertained. Like it was a summer movie. This is exactly like. Yeah, you didn't have to put.
This is what you want from your blockbuster.
You didn't have to put Fast and Furious Presents. Like, I probably would have watched this at some point in my life, just seeing like The Rock and Jason Statham in it. Idris Elba as a villain, and it was so weird. And like, isn't Roman Reigns in this for a little bit? Like,
he is, yeah.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
So I was watching, I'm like, oh, it's Roman Reigns, and then like what I thought was cool, like at the end is they have a little like kind of. Like I don't know if it was post credits or like at the end where they introduced Ryan Reynolds into this world, which I think it's pretty cool. I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan, but I think he does like these acts, like he's great in Deadpool. I think he definitely fits that kind of role for this type of movie. Like this, as this series is evolving on, they're just trying to see like what bigger star can we get to the point where like they're basically Avengers, where it's every Avengers movie. It's like, oh, like, my God, we got this person. And I think, and they're heading in that direction now. If they move on past 11, like if they do, I don't know if they're got like, we'll see how much money talks, but they're going to need, like, Vin Diesel cannot do this all his life. He cannot continue to do this. And yeah, like these characters, like they gotta have to, they want to have to do something else. Like, and to be honest, so I think they're going to start bringing in like newer talent, but it's just like you could see like Statham and The Rock, and I mean they've held their own franchises before, and they can bring in money, like they bring in the money, like they're A-list talent, especially for this type of movie. But it just, I don't necessarily think this needed to be included in the Fast and Furious franchise. The only like connection is the fact that like their names are Hobb and Shaw, and they were in a couple of previous entries. Like I don't remember any tie specifically to the previous like 7 movies. So maybe you guys can help me out with that. I didn't catch anything.
Other than having, you know,
Yeah,
the Shaws, yeah, and The Rock, I don't think there really was any ties, but yeah, I mean, you know, as far as my take on it, I thought this was a fun action movie, a popcorn flick, like you said. The car play was a little less than normal, which I'm okay with, you know, switch it up. But that chemistry between Jason Statham and The Rock is just fantastic. And, you know, the movies that they were in together in the main series really showed off what they could do. So I'm happy that they got their spinoff. This caused some friction with Vin Diesel behind the scenes. So I think that's part of the reason why The Rock is not going to be in future installments of the main series. But also, you know, they had some misgivings on the set for Fate of the Furious as well. The Rock was saying Vin was kind of a prima donna, showing up late and things of that nature. Just rumor and innuendo, folks.
No, I've heard that too, and I think even like on social media, like you can kind of see some things where like even like Vin Diesel came out and said something, or I don't know, like there was definitely some heat that made it its way public, and it just at this point, if The Rock doesn't come back for a Fast and Furious movie, I don't think I'll care. Like he was cool in it, but he had his like really cool moments. But if he never steps foot in like a Fast and Furious movie, or like same with Jason Statham, I think at this point now they're just looking for storylines that are just going to be like so over the top that you're not even going to notice these guys missing. But it is cool that they have their own franchise that if they want to make like a Hobbs and Shaw 2, then they're able to. And like I said, they're bringing in other names. So hopefully they have a somewhat of a like a producers have a plan to move forward after the Fast movies are done.
Yeah. Idris was cool as a villain, to quote or to paraphrase him, Black Superman. He was pretty kick butt. I thought some of the stuff was a little eye rolling, but that tends to happen with the Fast franchise, particularly the final battle where they're on Samoa and you know all all the weapons go dead and all this stuff, and they've got, you know, explosions hooked up to the cars and everything. Just seemed a little over the top, but that's what we're here for. We're here for over the top. So yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on Hobbs and Shaw. It was good, fun entry. Not critical to watching the rest of the series, but you know, I would say if you're looking for a fun romp, go check it out.
I was going to ask before we jump into the next, before Chris tells us what number 5 is, was there another character you guys like to see to have their own sub movie, like Fast and Furious presents X character?
Yeah, give me Giselle, Gal Gadot's character. I know she's gone. You know, she passed away in one of the movies, but look, if they can kill Letty and bring her back and kill Han and bring him back, like I'm sure. And we didn't see Giselle die. We just saw her kind of go back. So
I would be interested in a Giselle and Han movie where they're going, I think they talk about going to Tokyo, but I would like to see kind of maybe their trip there if something happens in between. So I'd be down for a movie like that. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I would probably
guess on that. I don't know who I want to see as a spinoff. Like I don't know. Like I think like the two most, like if you're talking about like a Fast movie, like in that franchise, I don't think anyone can really hold their own other than like action-packed stars like The Rock and Statham.
You don't want to see a Tyrese and Luda like buddy comedy back in Miami? No,
I can't deal with 2 hours straight of that.
I mean, hour and a half, dude. We're not talking 2 hours here. They cut it slim, hour and a half.
Nah, dude. I mean, all these movies they've been like 2 to 15.
Oh,
like,
they get longer and longer.
Good.
I think the Fate of the Furious is like, I think 2.5 hours, which is probably the reason. Like since our last podcast, when we we talked about you letting me borrow it, I think I realized I don't have that time to watch like a 3-hour movie. So I was just like, but I think like Fast 9 is supposed to like, I think it's clocking in at like 2:45. With that, like,
good
when you're starting to compete with Lord of the Rings length time, like I realize it's like
listen, if some of these garbage Marvel movies can be 2.5 hours, like we can make Fast and Furious movies 2.5 hours.
Hot takes coming in. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. You know that.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
My God.
All right. What do we have next?
We got Fast and Furious 6 next. I think this is like when we've mentioned a couple times. I think that the kind of series starts resetting after 5. 5 was like I said, 4 was the soft reboot. 5 was like kind of the hard reboot in terms of bringing all these characters in, especially like with The Rock. I think 6 is where things like really started pedaling forward with bringing in Owen Shaw. They have some other people like step up, like Letty comes back when she's surprised, like she's teased at the end of 5, which is cool. Another one, it's kind of similar to like Fast 8, where like Letty's basically a villain until she's not, until the story serves its purpose and she's a good person, like good again, and she remembers. Has the longest runway scene that I've ever seen in a movie. The longest one. Especially with a plane that goes, I'm pretty sure it takes off at like 500 miles an hour, and cars that are somehow managing to keep up with that speed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that plane was huge, and the cars were like holding it down. It's like I don't think that's possible.
I'm gonna, at this is where I think the series kind of like you gotta like suspend any kind of like disbelief, where it's just like it's now this is where I think they realize like now we have to go over the top, because I mean even with 5, like they're dragging a big safe like through the city, which isn't that bad. I mean, it's possible, I guess. Like I don't
obey
know.
the laws of physics, but sure.
Exactly. But then I think 6 is where like the writers' table were probably like, all right, let's see what we can do. Like what kind of things can we play around with and kind of just make audience just be like, my God. The action in it's great. I love seeing The Rock back. I like that he wasn't just like a character in 5. I think they kind of had confidence with him to kind of be that kind of go-to role. Now Han's in this, so this takes place before Tokyo Drift, which is where like kind of the Tokyo Drift link comes in. This has one of my favorite post-credit scenes with Jason Statham coming in and saying, what's he say? Like, I think he's like, Dominic Toretto, you don't know who I am, but I know who you are, which is fantastic. That was another one where like even the internet existed and I didn't even know he was cast in that. I saw this opening weekend, so I don't think anyone knew that he was going to be cast. And you're like, at this point, Statham's kind of crossed that B to A list. So, got a lot of people excited for the next few movies. Well, Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think with 6, again, like you could flip this with any of the other previous movies, Hobbs and Shaw or Fate for me, with it. It was budgeted $160 million, made $788 million. Rotten Tomatoes critic score is about 70%. So another one that, the people did enjoy. But yeah, I think like you were saying, Hans, this kind of takes the story from 5 and then just kind of amps it up. The Rock comes and he's like, hey, we got this, Owen Shaw character. And then this is where it ties in the link for, like you said, with the end credit scene with, Tokyo Drift, where it's like, oh, like, Han was killed by, Shaw's brother, who is, Deckard, which is Jason Statham, and, leads to, 7, which is, incredible. 7's incredible. No spoilers there, but yeah, I mean, this one, it's again, what you want from your Fast and Furious movies. I think it's a little, I think this is also like for me where it's like, I don't know if the whole, being over in England aspect works. I mean, I get the villain, is in England and, the international European element of it, doesn't work as well for me. But yeah, it's a fine choice and, middle of the road, number 5 pick there for us.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with middle of the road. It's perfectly fine entry. I totally agree with the setting. When I see Fast and Furious movies, I want like some exotic location, absolutely gorgeous, kind of like a Bond movie. And rainy England doesn't necessarily do it. I mean, it's cool to see the history, but we're talking street racing here and stuff. It's not like they get to show that off.
And this is where I was going to say this is, well, I know they have that like near end car chase where like they're out in like the mountain somewhere and Dom, he literally jumps from like one car to another, or he does like the launch Oh, Rick Chris is already shaking his head because I know he hates it, but yeah, just incredible. Superman.
I can't. I just that might have been the point in the series where I'm like, all right, now I think like I don't want to say I checked out, but I'm like, he just jumped from one highway to another. Like, there's no possible way he should be able to clear that and then landed on a car like perfectly. But whatever.
Fast and Furious, baby.
Yeah.
The other thing too that I'll add is, you know, it's a little weird watching this after Gina Carano kind of had her meltdown on social media. So, you know, looking at it with those eyes, where before, you know, I was like, okay, you know, she's not bad. She's kind of new to the acting game, but in here it's just like, get her off screen. So yeah, I don't know.
I didn't even remember her. Like I looked at like IMDb the other day, just like kind of just to do a little bit of research. I'm like, oh yeah, she like was in it. Like I think at this time it was like this and Deadpool was like she was kind of breaking into the acting game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's my thoughts on Fast 6. So all right. Well, next up we have one of my personal favorites at number 4, Too Fast, Too Furious from 2003. This is ranked number 4 on our overall list. It had a budget of 76 million, made 236 million worldwide, and Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 36%. A lot of people did not like this. A lot of people saw it as kind of a weaker entry. This is actually on my personal list the second entry. It's, you know, number 2, not number 4. But I just, man, talking about exotic locales, I thought Miami was gorgeous, absolutely perfect scenery and culture, vibes, all of it. Just, you know, give me that. Starts off with a really cool race with Brian. We get introduced to Roman in this movie, as well as Ava Mendez's police character, which I don't know what she's been up to, but I need more Ava Mendez. Like, come on, Ava, give somebody...
she had a moment then, like in 2000, like in the early 2000s. She was definitely like the who's this girl? You know, who's this woman, I should say. But yeah, would love more Ava in our life.
Yeah, get her back and get her some roles. But yeah, no, I thought this movie was just gorgeous to look at, a blast. It was really fun. You know, I thought Roman was funny. This was before his character kind of became overplayed for me. And Tej, you know, this is also where we meet him for the first time too. Or he had his giant fro, which, you know, let me see him bring that look back. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I really liked the movie, liked the storyline. I don't know. I loved it. Hans, what did you think about Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, this is kind of like going, you have a hit movie with Fast and Furious and you take away Vin Diesel, he was like, other than Brian, he was the star of the movie. So I think a lot of people probably, I think with that in the back of their mind, were like, you know, it's like, that's like, I'm trying to think, it's like having Iron Man 2 without Robert Downey.
Halloween 3 with no Michael Myers.
Right. So I think that a lot of people kind of had that in the back of their mind. Now I'm this isn't my favorite of the Fast and Furious, but it is enjoyable. John Singleton directed it, which was a great follow-up to have as a director for the first one. Which was great. You know, Roman's character as he goes through, he does become very annoying, but I thought he was like kind of like it was a good introduction for his character for Tyrese. But other than that, yeah, it was an excellent follow-up to it's not one of the movies where the sequel's better than the original. I mean, the original's still going to be better, but it definitely you can kind of put these into conversation and say like it's a good 1-2 punch. And at the time, you know, Too Fast, Too Furious came out, they weren't planning 15 years in the future. So in their mind, they probably only had maybe this and Tokyo Drift, where they're like, all right, it's a good number 2. It sucks that it has Tokyo Drift as its to close out that trilogy. But yeah, it really did well without. I think it was really good without Vin Diesel. But it was a good follow up. It still doesn't beat 1, but it definitely beats Tokyo Drift by a mile. Howard, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love Too Fast, Too Furious. I had it on number 5 when we were doing our, you know, early initial rankings. You know, I think Greg does make a good point with, you know, Tyrese's character with Roman, you know, kind of being like the perfect balance a little bit. You know, I think he does go to the comedic side a lot more. But I think that's because the other actors around him are kind of playing the, tough guy role, and he has to, figure out where he fits in there for it. Love the kind of last kind of where they where they drive their two cars on the highway into that like big, I guess, like storage place, and then they all come out with all the cars. I thought that was a really cool. They're like, we got them trapped, and then they come out with the crap ton of cars there that try to trick them for that. My biggest problem with this movie and why I don't think it belongs in the top half of the Furious movies is I don't think Cole Hauser is a great villain. And I think that's kind of where, for me, when I look at these movies, I mentioned Idris Elba and Hobbs and Shaw, we mentioned Charlize a little bit, even having Statham as the villain, it just kind of takes it to that extra level for me where it's like, oh yeah, like, you need that element, you need that kind of counter, weight, at least to me, to be, a better movie. But I do that rat scene with the bucket with Cole Hauser, which was pretty intense, but yeah, didn't really buy him as, I think Eva Mendes is going home with Paul Walker 10 times out of 10 over Cole Hauser because he's a loser. So it's fine.
Okay. Harry, what do we got next?
Yeah, moving in the top three. So for me, I won't speak for you guys, but like this is like the definitive top three for me. I don't think there can be any debate, and if it is, it's a hot take and it's wrong. So Greg, you're wrong with your Too Fast and Too Furious. But we have the Fast and the Furious from 2001, the first movie in the entry series, basically a Point Break remake with cars and street racing, instead of I guess surfers and extreme, what not bungee jumpers. What do they do? Plane jumpers. Help me out here.
Skydiving,
yeah, parachuters.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I didn't know what skydiving from the sky was about, so I appreciate it. So this one had a modest budget of $38 million. It made $207 million worldwide. Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 53%, which I think is a little on the low side for it. But I mean, this is the start of it all. This one is probably 7 and 5 are played in my house all the time. I've talked about the movies my wife loves to just put on, background noise, comfort movies. This is one. Young Paul Walker, stud in it. Vin Diesel, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? What are we supposed to think about him? He's just incredible guy, for it. But yeah, I mean, a Point Break, you can call it a Point Break rip off with cars. But, this is like the besides, I guess, after the third one and probably the fourth one, the street racing kind of, element comes out of it a lot. And this is, the original street race, movie for it. So absolutely love this one. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Really cool watching in 2000, a movie in 2001 where they're trying to steal, DVD players and like stereos. So that's like a nice, history lesson for the young folks out there who, need that. And, I'm not gonna lie. As much as I don't know anything about cars and I, am not invested in cars, when I saw those neon green Honda Civics that they were using to steal the trucks with the undercarriage lights on there, I was like, I need a Honda Civic with some neon green undercarriage lights. I was obsessed with it. I was like trying to figure out ways how I could get that, and I must say it never came to be. So sadly,
did you buy a tank of NOS also?
I didn't. No, I saw the blue flame and that cool scene when Johnny Tran rolls up and he just shoots the car, and the blue flame comes out, which is absolutely sick. But yeah, this movie rocks. I can't speak enough about it. Hans, where do you sit with Fast and Furious?
You did have the Civic, so you were like 1/3 there.
I know.
You just need the NOS and the lights.
Just didn't trick it out.
Yeah, I know. Maybe in another life, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you get that RAV4 souped up now, so you get the lights under there and the NOS. No, this is where it all started. This influenced so many movies that after this came out, like there was a string of attempts to make the next Fast and Furious, like even a couple years after it came out. I knew there was one movie I think called like Red Line, if I remember that right. And it was the same thing where they're trying to like reboot it with have that fast cars and like parties on the beach and all these like crazy like settings. But yeah, I mean, this is the movie that put Paul Walker and Vin Diesel for the most part on the map. They definitely became like characters that that pretty much like anyone in this kind of genre like love. Like it set off a whole different genre of movies. And I think that, looking back, like I haven't seen it recently. Like maybe I saw that like 5 or 6 years ago, and it still kind of holds to this day. And I know you mentioned the whole fact that they're stealing DVD players, like in this day and age, like that's a movie would not, like they wouldn't do that in like a movie that's being made in 2021. But like I just think I always say this, like it's so funny how like the series evolved from 1 to 9, that like I don't even consider like Fast 6 or and on part of like 1 and 2. I just consider it just like a whole different series. It just happens to have the same characters. But again, this is where like all started. I mean, most of the main characters are for the most part are back, other than Paul Walker. Like Jordana Brewster, she hung around for a while. Michelle Rodriguez was there and left and came back for she was out like majority of one movie or two movies. But yeah, I would definitely I like to revisit this movie every couple of years, because there is a really good relationship and good chemistry between Brian and Dom that I think and with their relationship like carries over into following movies, where like the first half of the franchise they don't necessarily like each other, and basically it shells out the whole word like family in every sentence from like 5 on. So they yeah, but it's not my favorite, but it does set off like pretty much what's probably the most profitable one of the most profitable franchises that's not Marvel or Star Wars. Well, Greg,
I think it's funny. Well, first of all, look how far we came. I mean, from 1 to 8, dude. I mean, it's crazy, but I think it's funny. Even I think it was even as late as 8. Dom was still referring to Brian as Buster, which is what he called him in the first movie. Buster.
He's a Buster.
I live my life.
The Buster got me out of handcuffs.
And I mean, in this, it was like, oh man, Dom's got a record. Like he almost beat a dude to death with a wrench. And it's like, oh, how quaint, like, seeing where we've been in 8 and, in 9, we're going to have cars strapped with rockets and,
Let's go.
This dude just, his claim to fame was attacking someone with a wrench. But yeah, no, I mean, it does hold up for the most part. Some things are a little dated, like you mentioned with the DVD players and stuff. There was a little bit of homophobic language in there, which was a little abrasive.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a fun rewatch, and definitely, I don't think anybody, including Vin, could have seen what would have spawned out of this, but I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say, we're happy that it has turned into what it is. I mean, it's just such a cool franchise, and, regardless of the over the top stuff, at the core basis, the family, this cast of characters, and the cool street racing aspect of it. Well, maybe not so much street racing, but car play, I should say.
Yeah.
Those are retained throughout the series, and that's all what we're here for. So I'm ride or die for Fast and Furious, baby.
is this Vin Diesel's first like major role, or didn't he have like when did
I think
came
Pitch
out?
Black might have been
Okay.
the
Oh no, he was in
big
Boiler
one.
Room. Boiler Room, I think, was his big.
Yeah.
That and Saving Private Ryan, he was in.
Yeah,
But he wasn't
had
like a
small
major
scene
role.
in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had Triple X also. When was that?
That
That
was
was
the year
after.
after Fast and the Furious. But yeah, Pitch
Okay.
Black and Boiler Room were 2000.
Oh
And,
Jesus, I've read Iron Giant, but he wasn't on screen. But
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's how he got to do the Groot voice work. They saw him in Iron Giant and said, "That's our guy." Also, just want to summarize with R.I.P. to our man Johnny Strong, Leon. He's not actually dead, but his character is like one of the only characters who, like, from the original, who's like not come back based off of possibly still being alive. So sorry,
Yeah.
Leon. Maybe Fast 9, maybe Fast 10, maybe Fast 11.
There-
I would
it-
love. I would absolutely love to be in a theater for if Leon shows up at some point, and just the pop I think he would get, because I think people are wondering, where's Leon?
I think people would be like, "Who?" Like,
No,
I mean,
man, everybody would be like Leon.
I would love it if like in like 11, like in the last like 15 minutes, like he's like turns out to be like the one behind everything. Like and people who like have stuck with this, like there's gonna be one guy
One
in
of
the theater
our
that's
own.
stuck with the franchise for like 20 years. It's just like I
it's all
can't
because
believe
I
it.
lost my dad's car in that race.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
right.
What's number 2?
Number 2. So this for me is the best Fast and Furious movie. But we have Fury 7 released in 2015. Budget of $190 million, made 1.5 billion, as Greg would say, billion with a B, worldwide. And is the highest, I believe, critically scored Fast and Furious movie at 82%. Now, I think obviously the big thing with Fast and Furious 7, and I think the sentiment going into it with obviously Paul Walker's tragic passing, and I mean, I think it's hard to talk about this movie without talking about that because I think after 5 and after 6 even I came out of those movies thinking, dude, they could do this forever. Not meaning like forever is in like 50 years, but like, once Dom wants to fade away, because I know he's a little bit older more than Paul Walker, Vin Diesel. Paul could just kind of take the reins and we already have these other characters and kind of keep building the universe. And then, when this happened, I mean, jumping ahead, I think the send off is absolutely incredible, and it brought a tear to my eye watching it. It's hard even talking about watching it, just because of that emotional impact with it. I think as we've kind of talked about throughout the entire conversation, is this movie's grown. While there was elements of Point Break, and kind of using that template to kind of build the first one. This is kind of an IP that's like not based off of a comic book, not based off of another movie. This is kind of original, IP creation, and to see what it's become, and to kind of have that moment, before 7 was released and be like, what are they going to do? And this one just knocks it out of the park for me. And I don't want to go on too much because I don't want to cry. So Hans, take it away there. Are you making a face of disapproval?
No,
I'm gonna be
no.
nervous. I'm going to be
It's
nervous.
not a disapproval face. This this is where, like, when I mentioned, like, they kind of said like they're going to take the franchise in a different direction. I think this is where it just like goes on like such a higher up slope, especially in the scene. Like, I think it starts off or not, the movie doesn't start off where they're parachuting cars out of a plane, perfectly land them on the road.
Incredible.
Then they jump and hijack a bus or a truck with Tony Jaa hiding in there, and then they get the kidnapped girl, and then they drive a car through one building to another.
And giving us a play-by-play, homie. This all sounds great.
I know, but I don't even know how to rate this movie. I don't think it should be the highest rated Fast movie. It should not. 82% is a lot. And I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's a very enjoyable movie, but I think like I feel like as the movie went on, like I said to myself, like, this is not realistic. More than I probably I've said in previous entries. But again, I love the movie based on like the adrenaline factor that it just keeps amping it up. The end fight between Statham and Dom is the most ridiculous thing because they're literally beating each other with pipes and they're fine. And at one point, Dom says, like, I don't know what his like ending finisher line is, but he's like, he says something like, what the funny thing about the streets is they always win.
Yeah.
And he steps on a concrete structure parking garage and it collapses.
Let's go.
The thing collapses.
Incredible.
I'm not even going to say that was the most ridiculous part, is the fact that it collapsed on Vin Diesel and Jason Statham, and they're both back in the next movie to like just be okay. And I think from the Paul Walker aspect of it, like, yeah, it was a great send off. I think there were a lot of points in the movie where a lot of like I remember seeing it, and a lot of people were like assuming they were going to kill his character off, and I've heard people like in the theater like, oh, this is it. This is it. Like, he's going to go flying off a cliff.
Watching it. Yep.
There's like one scene when they're flying through like LA at the end, and like you think like he might risk his life to like, but no, like, and I'm glad that they didn't, because in today's world with like deep fake and everything and like CGIing people's faces on, I something tells me that they kind of had that idea to possibly do it. Like they could either do it and use the CGI and the deep fake and all that to continue his character. But I think they went the right way to just let him kind of go off and give up all this crazy stuff because his wife was pregnant, so it's like he kind of Dom didn't want him to get involved with that stuff anymore. So I think it was cool that they did that. Now, we see in the future, in Fast 8, like they named his son Brian. I think isn't his brother like in it, or like his character's brother, or in Fast 8, or did I make
Are you
that
talking
up?
about Paul Walker's real brother?
Yeah,
or?
Paul Walker's. Or no, all right. No, I thought his character's brother was in it, or did I make that up?
Brian doesn't have a brother to my
Yeah, he
knowledge.
He does. Okay. All right. Then I'm wrong. But other than that, like I think they probably wanted to bring him back, but they did the right thing by just kind of honoring him, saying like, all right, drive off in this way, and and it got the banger by Wiz Khalifa that we got, that's played on the radio.
Play that song.
It's on the radio.
You listen to the radio in 2021? You bopping out?
Oh my God. There's so many good stuff on the radio now. But like that is, I'm on 95 like multiple times a week, and that song's always on. And well, I'm driving down into the city, so but that song is always
on the radio.
On. Yeah, but and and I mean, when was that? Like a couple of years, like God knows how many years ago. They're still pumping that song out. So I hear it. The first thing I think of is like Paul Walker and
100%.
And Fast 7. Hopefully I'll sit down and watch Fast 8 in full, and I'll probably say the same things when we do our next podcast and say 8 is the most ridiculous movie that I've ever seen. So we'll see. Greg?
Yeah, so there's a lot to like and a lot to love with Furious 7. First of all, my favorite scene in this is the whole thing where they're in Abu Dhabi and they're driving
dude, absolutely
cars from tower to tower, dude.
Let's go.
Or no, wait, not Rousey. Even that. You have that first of all, that fight was, I didn't even get to that. That fight was great between her and Michelle Rodriguez. But what about when Dom lifts the car up with his bare hands? He uses Superman strength to lift a car up.
How else is it going to fly all the way over there?
He's a human being.
If a mom can do it when her baby's trapped, then Dom can do it.
Greg.
I believe in Dom. But yeah, that was crazy. The whole Abu Dhabi sequence. The Rock, and his fight with Jason Statham in the beginning was amazing, and then at the end when he just flexes and shreds his cast off, and he's like, "Daddy's got to go to work." Oh man. Dude, I love this. Yeah, it gets a little crazy for sure. But you've got some great bit players in it too. Jaimin Hounsou is in it. Love him. Loved him since Gladiator, and it's always good to see him in it. Tony Jaa's hands mentioned. Doesn't have a ton to do with the stuff that he's in. He really showcases his skills. So
I wonder if he suffered because of, his scenes kind of involve Paul Walker. Like, I wonder if he suffered or any development with his character suffered because of that. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. And, maybe it's a possibility. This one also introduced the character of Ramsey, and she was a great addition to the crew. So happy to see that they brought her character back for Fate of the Furious, and she's going to be in the F9 as well. Trying to think of what else here. The way they handled Paul Walker, I agree with you guys. I thought it was cool that they just kind of had him ride off into the sunset rather than killing his character off. I will say on the most recent rewatch I did of it, I maybe it was because I wasn't looking for it. I don't know, but it didn't stand out to me as much in the scenes where his brothers doubled for him and they CG'd his face on. The very last scene stands out, but I didn't notice it at all in the rest of the movie, where I think the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, there, and there. So yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. Furious 7 definitely earned its place as number 2 overall for sure. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think the first, like one of the scenes was I don't know all the scenes that they used the double for, but I think is when Dom's house blew up or
Mm,
Brian, one of their house, whatever that scene was. I think
yeah,
that's his brother was a double there. But I didn't like I think like at that time I knew that they were doing like they were using his like his brother to do it. But it is very noticeable at the that last scene when he's looking over at Dom. Like you could tell
his
that is
face
like
is like moving a
it's
little bit.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's not it just I feel like they de-aged him like like 10, 15 years. Like it just looked weird. But other than that,
It was
I mean
incredible.
that but it was a good it didn't take me out of the moment, I guess.
Mhm.
I mean, they could have did a cartoon drawing of him and put his head on there and I still would have been like kind of like probably like had the same
Your
reaction.
eyes out.
So yeah. I crying bawling like Harry in a public theater.
Dude, it was a little misty in there. You had to like keep your head down when you were coming out. It was like, geez,
Yeah.
man. Everybody thought it was good. All right, let's get out of here. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Dude, what'd you go
Oh.
see? Fury 7?
Yeah.
um,
All right.
all right. Well, yeah, I mean, that leaves us with one entry left, our number one on the list, and that is Fast Five from 2011, ranked number one. This was my personal number one as well. Had a budget of 125 million, made 626 million worldwide, and Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 77%. I just, man, I cannot say enough good things about this movie. Talked about it in Fave 5 action movies. I think it was honorable mention. This one was great because they really it kind of four kicks off where they start to go with the story, but at five
Yeah.
is really where you see it come together and shape what the rest of the franchise is going to look like.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's still got ties to being realistic enough where you know it's not totally over the top like some of the later movies. Beautiful scenery in Brazil, just absolutely gorgeous. You had Elsa Pataki coming in. You had the dude playing Vince returning from the original, as we find out at the end that Letty's alive. I mean, it's just you've got the whole gang basically, except for Letty. They bring together all these characters for the first time. They introduce Hobbs, who is just such a macho badass. I mean, he was just really cool. A great entry. I don't know this. I can gush and gush about this movie, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say for the listeners, the reason Fury 7 isn't number one is because both of you guys ranked 7 number 3. So this was number 2 for me on my list, and I talked about it. It was one of my top action movies, and I think 7 you can kind of flip a coin, but 5 definitely stands out a little bit more for the action with me. Just that opening, kind of scene where they're running through the favelas, and then they have to, go get the cars from the train. We talked about the infamous, bank scene driving through, Rio with that. And like you said, Greg, I think it has so many elements that just, there's a little bit of street racing in there. And it was kind of funny that they go to steal some cars and street race for them, and they totally like skip the scene in the movie to kind of be like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. Just wait till the end when we're driving a safe through the streets. And I think the addition to The Rock was so perfect. And this is where I think for me, the villain matched the star power, the first time that kind of hits and equals, where it's like, well, I love The Rock. Well, I love Vin. Are these guys going to fight? And, who's going to win? And obviously, there's that, probably negotiated fight scene on who was going to win between, Vin Diesel and The Rock. But yeah, I love this movie. Fantastic. Deserves all the praise, and probably maybe you can make a case for deserving to be number one. But Hans, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think with the biggest like addition for me was like The Rock, like with it, because I think he brought like a new life to kind of the series where they kind of started at this point where like, all right, well, this is the direction that we're gonna go. We're gonna at least keep it grounded, but like I feel like they really started caring for plot and how they're gonna like focus on the rest of the series before Vin doesn't want to do it anymore, and I think that fight scene between him and The Rock is like phenomenal. Like it really is crazy, and it ends with Dom almost killing him with a wrench.
Go
And
back to the first one. Tie it in.
That's right.
But it is definitely one of those movies where like you kind of feel like The Rock isn't like, since he's not the villain in the movie. I feel like once they like announce 6 and 7 and however many they announce at the time, like he's gonna end up joining them, which I think is like kind of a pretty cool dynamic in the future movies. But for this one as being kind of like the Brian character, like a more macho Brian character from Fast and Furious 1, where at the end they help each other out, and of course they're on like a border where what's his name, Hobbs can't get him. Yeah, it really it had a lot of like you could tell like definitely this is Justin Lin's third crack at the Fast movies. So I think like he did 3, 4, and then he did I think every one since 3. So I think like this was the one where he kind of had an idea of like where they were sitting at the table and they're like, all right, well, now we have The Rock. Now we're going to start kind of just amping it up as we go along. Like at the end, they're like, let's take a big giant vault and drag it through Brazil. Like that seems like, people will still believe that. And even like, it's definitely like a cool heist movie where like it's one of those movies where like kind of like Ocean's 11, where they reveal the whole thing. Like you think what's happening, and then they really reveal what happened, where you're like, oh shoot, like how did I not catch that? Or like it's just basically the whole bait and switch at one point. But yeah, it's probably my favorite out of the Fast movies, because I think it's the most grounded, but it doesn't, I mean, other than like 1, 2, and 3, but I just feel like it's more enjoyable to watch that, because it is very like that big adrenaline rush, and it's still within a level of believability. And then I think once it gets like 6, 7, and 8, you're like, all right, like now we understand where they're going. They're going to be on the racing around the rings of Jupiter by 11.
How about when Hobbs goes to the street race and all his men have guns on Dom, and Dom's like, not an American cop. This is Brazil.
Yeah.
So many good lines.
Yes.
Like I would love to
Greatness.
like I would love to see how like with all the tension that like kind of came out between The Rock and Vin, like when it started, like was it at 5? Like was it like someone had mentioned at that fight where it's just like who's gonna win it? Like are we gonna end it in a tie? Because basically Vin Diesel wins that fight, and he almost clobbers him with a wrench. Yeah, he did. You don't shake your head. He almost killed him, and
but he didn't.
Because I always forget her name. What's Brian's wife's name?
Mia.
Like is like Dom, and he just stops. I think that it's so like I think at one point they like I would love to see like how that like relationship kind of evolved at one point when they started filming, and then it just like fell apart to the point where like The Rock's probably not going to be in 9, 10, or 11.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
go ahead, Harry.
No, I was going to say just quick little story about this one. This one, I'm pretty sure I've seen this one as well with you, Hanratty. We went to go see with our buddy Tim, and we showed up to our local theater, the AMC in Neshaminy, and we went there and we got in the parking lot, and we go into the building, and it's just like lines everywhere for this one. Like this one was, I mean, obviously, we talked about how much money it made, and obviously some of the other ones made more money, but this was the first time where I think it took that extra level up because of The Rock, I think, addition to that. But this one, I remember, and we had to drive all the way to another theater to like go see it, because it was like, we got like 10 minutes till start time, and there's no way we're getting tickets here. So, and then as I was leaving, somebody was like, there's a lot of hot cars out here tonight. I'm racing somebody tonight. So we had to pull our own Fast and the Furious out of there to get to the next theater to go see the movie. So
that was like similar to when Invincible came out with Mark Wahlberg about the Eagles. I remember people tailgating in the parking lot for that movie. But you're right. Like it basically was like it was like one of the race scenes an event in the park. Yeah, it was like the race scenes in like a Fast and Furious movie out in the parking lot where you walk out and like people are like half dressed, like have like there's like so many lights on so many cars. Harry with his Honda Civic and his blue lights.
Didn't have any lights. Thanks. Yeah, wish I had lights, but never to be.
Yeah.
All right, so
Meanwhile, I'm rolling up in a Corolla. I'm like parking next to these cars, like, hey guys, what's up? Yes.
but
They
you
get
had
you
the
a good
big rims
deal.
at least.
Good
Yeah.
financing.
So we'll talk about the franchise overall in a second, but if you guys are prepping to go see 9 and you haven't seen anything else, you might question, what should I watch? My recommendation would be definitely 8, but if you
Hmm.
can, watch 6, 7, and 8 because that's kind of like the Shaw trilogy, and that ties into 9. Hans, what do you think?
Since I haven't seen 8, I can't speak on it, but from what like that's the like 6, 7, 8 have they that's big, like you're right. It started with the Shaws, like with Owen. So I would agree with that. And is Lou, like you said, we don't know if the brothers are in 9 yet, right? It's not
Right.
Yeah.
not confirmed, but Helen
Yeah.
Mirren is.
Yeah.
I would agree. 6, 5 is definitely a good standalone with the exception of like introducing some of the characters that go on in the series. But yeah, I would start at 6 because really between 1 through 5, nothing really. It doesn't seem like anything's gonna happen that will affect the current story. I think they wanted to like after 6 started with like the Shaw family and Charlize Theron's character. Like I think that's when they kind of, especially things are getting so off the wall. I think you kind of start with 6 in that long runway.
Harry, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably get away with maybe skipping 6. I know the Shaw brothers are in there, but I think if you watch 7, you kind of get that, introduction to how Han, gets killed, because I think they play that before it, to kind of let you
Yeah.
know that this is kind of where we're leading to, and then you could probably just watch 7 and 8, honestly. But I mean, if you're looking to just check out some films to introduce you to the series, I would definitely say, watch the first one, probably watch 5, watch 7. And I think you're pretty much watching the goods of the series if you just want to do that. Or if you're just looking to rewatch, just watch those 3 movies and you'll be set. I know the
Right.
wife will be watching them before 9.
So I don't think there's any hot takes here, but let's talk about our thoughts on the franchise overall. As far as I'm concerned, this is one of my favorite franchises. It's just hit after hit after hit, and even the bad ones, Tokyo Drift aside, are all pretty enjoyable for me. So I love this. I'm a little nervous to see how far they push the envelope with F9, but I'm definitely going to be there for the ride. So I'm looking forward to it. And, it's like you said too, or you guys both said, the level of talent that they have coming in and keep adding it. They're basically like Marvel movies where at some point everybody in Hollywood's going to have worked on a fast movie. So you can't go wrong with the fine folks acting for us. Harry, what are your thoughts on the franchise overall?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly want to see John Cena become, bring him in the team. I mean, I know he's kind of the villain in this one, but let's bring him in because I think he works
That's
so
10,
well.
My guy.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he works so well as a comedic actor that I think let's slip him in there. Let's have him banter with Tyrese and get that whole thing going. But yeah, I mean, as far as the series overall, I mean, it's so fun. It's exactly what you hope. For me, I feel like it's exactly what you hope every other movie that tries to be a Fast and Furious movie will be. Like any type of big budget. I mean, I'm even talking about like a movie like Jupiter Ascending or something like that. Like it's a different type of movie, but I think people hope that it's going to be like this great franchise, and it's like, nah, man, we'll see you at the door. And this movie for me is this is exactly what you want. You want a good villain, you want good comedy, you want good action, you want good suspense, and you want to leave the theater wanting more and expecting more based off of, another movie. So, I mean, for me, it's just, it's a great time. So yeah, Hans, what are your thoughts?
So I wouldn't say this is my favorite franchise, like one of my favorite franchises, but it is probably
Terrible
the most.
take.
It's not a terrible take. Yeah, I actually got a question for you guys that I think it'll have like a pretty good discussion, but I'll bring it up in a minute. But I think like as this isn't the best or best like series, like I wouldn't put this up with like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or like the Marvel movies. No, but in terms of like Greg had said, like this is one of my like his favorite franchises. I don't think it's one of
Yeah.
my favorite, but in terms of pure entertainment, I think this is definitely like in the top 3 because
Okay.
because it's just, and I've said it before, where like they go from stealing DVD players to now they're going in like their cars are strapped with
We're
rockets
going to space, baby.
to go into like basically the edge of the atmosphere to go into space. I don't know. I haven't seen Fast 9. I don't even know. I think at one point I saw in the trailer they're like jumping volcanoes and stuff. I don't know. They looked
Let's
like it
go.
was. And Harry's right. Like you leave the theater and like I'm like I think when I like watched Fast 7 in the theater, I left like smiling because it's just like this is
Dude.
this is so unbelievably insane that you kind of want to see what's coming next, like what they're actually going to do next. And honestly, they've topped it every single time. And it's that big town too, to the point where we're gonna get to like Fast 11 and like Daniel Day-Lewis is gonna be the villain. Which I would
Bring it on.
if that I bet you if they did that, that movie would like double Endgame's ticket sales.
Oh, you're
Stop.
insane. Daniel Day doesn't have that kind of following.
But no, I it would be
That's a
cool to
hot
see
take.
like what kind of some names they want to bring in to the franchise next, because I think they probably brought in Cena because they don't have The Rock and they want like that big name and that like kind of brawn to go toe to toe with Dom. And like I'm curious to see where they would go next, because if Cena isn't like a main villain and he ends up joining them in
Ace.
Fast In, which I'm really banking on the name of the like next Fast movie to be like
What are you calling
Fasten, but Fast 10.
Oh my God.
All right. Okay. Sure.
Put
I
your
like
money. I'm putting my money on it.
Fast and Furious. Got
Taking
it.
that
So-
bet to the moon. Taking that bet to the moon with the Doja coin.
So your question is, who do we want to see in future?
Well, no,
installments?
no. That was just a separate question. I'm just kind of
Okay.
going like, yeah. But no, I think as the series, like, I think it's heading in the direction where it's just like it basically gave up. I think what they wanted to do in like 4 and 5, like 4, was reinvent Fast and Furious as like maybe keep it with a good story when it didn't work, and then they realized it's like now we just got to go like adrenaline, and just like make it unbelievable.
Yeah,
But
you keep
people are
topping yourself.
still like questioning like what the hell are they going to do next. So I can't wait to see what like 10 and 11 look like. I don't know what they're going to look like. That like
It would be
they really
amazing.
are. They're probably going to be
Buckle
racing
in.
rockets through like interstellar space.
Let's
Which-
go.
God knows. At the end of 11, he'll probably go through a black hole and we'll end up in the first one again.
And he'll meet Riddick from Pitch Black.
I would. That's better than my Daniel Day-Lewis idea.
Well,
no, but-
I think. Oh, go ahead.
no, good. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think you pondering who would we like to see in the Fast franchise. I think that's a good question, and I'll throw 2 names out there. Number one, Michael Fassbender. Find something for him. He
He's
could
already
be-
racing, so he'll go right in.
Yeah, he could be, another big bad or whatever. And Tilda Swinton, I love Tilda Swinton. She's so offbeat in a lot of her roles. Bring her in, make her part of the crew. Like, I want to see what kind of weird strangeness she can add to it. But I would love to see both of those join.
Oh man.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton. I'm gonna bounce off that. Yeah, we've all here have seen the movie Hook, right?
Hook?
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, that's Glenn Close. Never mind, that's Glenn Close. Has a cameo in Hook as one of the pirates. Fun fact: the one that gets locked in the box with the scorpions, that's Glenn Close.
Get out of here. I never knew that.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't
Not
know
a-
until maybe like 5 or 6 months ago.
Not a huge Hook guy. Sorry.
You gotta watch it. Yeah, when you watch
That's
it,
fine.
it looks like a guy. Like it looks and sounds and everything like a guy. But I
But it's
looked at it.
not.
I'm like, but it's Glenn Close. I thought it was Tilda Swinton, which it's not. But I would love to see her in the series. I was kind of throwing a couple names out there. Where I'm like same as you, Greg. Where I would love to see like someone along like bring a little more comedy to it, like someone who has like some kind of range from like comedy and like somewhat drama. I would love to see Jason Bateman get at it to the Fast franchise.
Okay. No?
I'm done. I was kidding. No, I was kidding.
Oh.
No, the two people I would love to see, like, and they introduced them like in Hobbs and Shaw. I'd love to see like Ryan Reynolds would really fit really well in here. I would love like my dream like fast role like to who it would go to probably won't happen. Would probably be like Keanu Reeves. I think maybe in the middle of like John Wick 1 and 2, this would have been a good role for him. But I think like I'd rather him start pumping out more John Wick movies instead of like kind of filming another Fast movie.
Yeah, I gotcha. Harry, any names come to mind for who you'd like to see?
I was thinking somebody like a John Hamm. Like I'm thinking of his character in Baby Driver, like just kind of being an off the rails.
That's a good one. Yeah,
psycho, like just kind of gun nut or whatever it might be. But yeah, let's get some more handsome men in there. Bring Idris back. Let's just bring Idris back. We don't know if he really died. Let's get him back. He's back. Black Superman. He's in. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us for our Fast Pod, our ranking of the Fast and Furious franchise movies. We appreciate it. Harry, you got anything going on for the peeps?
Just next time you guys will see me on the pod, I'll be married, so I'll be a married man. So sorry, ladies out there, but
when's this?
What?
When you getting married?
Dude, come on, you're ridiculous. So Hanratty will be there, Papa will be there. It'll be a great time.
Yes.
So yeah, but follow us on Twitter at PS Live Spicy. And give us a follow. We'll try to follow you back there. And enjoy the Fast and Furious movies if you're new to them. If you've seen them, now's a good time to dive back in before Fast 9 in a couple weeks.
Hands, anything for the peeps?
Nothing. I'm gonna try and
See ya.
all right. See everyone. It's been fun. No, I've actually been trying to get a lot get caught up on the Fast series. I know I said a few things, but like Fast 8. Hopefully, I'm gonna have that watched before 9 comes out. I'm still debating whether I'm gonna wait for Harry to come back on his honeymoon if we want to go see it together, but I probably won't since he went to go see Godzilla without me. But no. All jokes aside, I have a lot to do this week thanks to Harry deciding to get married. So
my bad.
I'll plug his wedding.
Yes. So everybody send your love and well wishes to our man Harry. And as always, like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, leave us a review on iTunes, all of that good stuff. And as always, live spicy.
Spicy.